Hello everybody and welcome back to Middle-earth and a new series, a new playthrough of 4th Age Total War Dominion of Men. It feels like it has been a while. Recently on the channel we went through a Horondor campaign, played that through to my satisfaction, and now we're going to try a faction that I've been really wanting to play again for quite some time. This is the Chiefdom of North Rhûn, and this has a lot of pluses in my account book. For those of you new to the mod, first of all, this is a mod set in the 4th Age of Middle-earth after the events of the War of the Ring. So there's no Sauron faction. The Ring Bearers are gone. The West is split up between the forces of the reunited kingdom of Gondor and Arnor. You've still got familiar factions like Rohan and Dunland. You do, however, the big news for this mod is that there is a civil war in the form of the Kingdom of Adunabar. This is sort of a split-off, a splintered Dúnedainic faction representing an idea that Tolkien explored in one of his very last writings, a short story called The New Shadow, which he left unfinished. And this is the idea that men would quickly become bored with being good and would turn to evil and dark cultic worship and so on. And that's represented most strongly in the mod by the Kingdom of Adunabar. The cult, however, does have other presences in a few other factions, most notably the Chiefdom of Rhûn, the Empire of Harad, and the Chiefdom of Dunland as well. All three of those factions can train, in addition to their native-style troops, cultic units, as they can sort of switch over to worship of the Shadow Cult. But we're going to be playing one of the so-called minor factions, the Chiefdom of North Rhûn. I love this faction because of its simplicity and the openness of the play style. So there's a lot of options with how we can approach this. You start off as something of an underdog, and I think in many ways this is one of the 2 or 3 hardest campaigns in the game in 4th Age Total War. We just played through Horondor, and I think I proved, at least for myself, that this is not a super hard faction if you play through, at least in a certain way, in the beginning. If you sort of know where you need to go and what you need to do, then Horondor can be pretty straightforward. But North Rhûn, really for a long time, this was one of the hardest ones for me to get a good feel for, and it's because you have a fairly limited unit roster. Most of your forces are infantry rather than cavalry, and I find that harder to manage. And you also have a poor economic position, and strategically we are going to find ourselves pinned between 2 larger and more aggressive factions. Of course, the related Chiefdom of Rhûn to our south and east, and importantly the Kingdom of Dale to our west. Dale is also notable because they have an alliance with dwarves in the area who have, of course, some enclaves in the Iron Hills, as well as on the southwestern shores of the Sea of Rhûn, so right in our territory. But these are not the only neighbors we have to contend with. No, we also have the Kingdom of Rovanion, and we also have the Kingdom of Dorwinion, who's going to be a really initial, sort of an early neighbor. But we're going to try Chiefdom of North Rhûn in a bit of a different approach. Because of all those difficulties I mentioned, your large neighbors, the fact that you have typically kind of a hard military to get good, decisive, easy victories with, the fact that the economy is hard, we're going to try something different. But first, let's get a general overview for the faction, and then we'll jump into the campaign map. So this is estimated to be a harder than normal faction, as indicated by the difficulty factor of bull roaring. That simply means that this is a faction that we view as harder than normal. That doesn't have anything to do with the difficulty settings. In fact, I'm going to adjust that right now. So the recommended settings for every faction in this mod is that you play on decidedly Tookish for the campaign difficulty, which equates to medium, and bull roaring for the battles, which equates to hard. The mod was sort of designed with this in mind, and after many, many years of playing this, I can attest that medium campaign difficulty is actually a sweet spot, for me anyway. I love the way it allows you to still use diplomacy in the game in somewhat of a reasonable and predictable way, so it doesn't feel useless. You're not facing hordes after hordes of incredibly aggressive and, almost suicidal AI factions that hound you down relentlessly. Some people may enjoy that sort of apocalyptic approach, but I like a game where I can sort of build, I can turtle a little bit, and the challenge comes from how I pace myself in some ways. So, with this faction, let's see what they have to say. The East is home to many peoples, and though the Chiefdom of Rune may be the strongest, they are not alone. In the search for new lands and self-rule, some tribes moved north to form the Chiefdom of Northrune. Their lands are poor and the winters harsh, but these rugged folk are resilient and determined to expand their holdings, especially toward the richer western lands of Dale. To the south, however, their strong easterling neighbors may not look fondly upon their success. And it identifies us as men of darkness. There is an alignment system in the mod, essentially sort of religion from the base game, which I should say that this is also based on the Barbarian Invasion expansion, and this is a mod that uses the original game, the OG game, not the remastered version. So that's what we're looking at here. We also have, this is sort of a signature unit of ours. This is the Axes of Rune. And it's a two-handed axe unit, a really great unit. We won't get them for a few years before we can really train our own, but they are going to be somewhat key to our success. So, with all of that said, let's jump into the campaign. And we do have a little bit of an intro slideshow with some more introductory text here to give a better sense of the flavor of the faction. The snows that blow down from the cold wastes of the north are bitter and unforgiving, but among the people of Rune there are those who believe that such dire weather makes a man strong, able to withstand harsh climate and ill fortune. The settlers who departed from the greater chiefdom of Rune to make these lands their own were strong indeed, and passed down that strength to their descendants, the hardy folk of North Rune. No blood yet has been spilled between the people of North Rune and their southern neighbors, but there are those in the chiefdom of Rune who eye the northerners with distrust. War between the Easterlings is not unheard of, and would surely invite trouble from nearby Northmen. The rise of the Kingdom of Dale in recent years is a matter of grave concern for the chieftains of North Rune. Some raids westward have met with success, but more have ended in disaster, the raiders slain by Dale's outriders. Even the small Kingdom of Dorwinion has proven capable of defending its wealthy settlements, for now. Many of the chiefdom's young men are eager to reverse these losses and bring war to the Westlands, but in the cold of the north, hot hearts must be tempered with wise heads. And we're showing there some images from a sort of hypothetical battle between North Rune and, really in some ways, their signature initial enemy, the chiefdom or the Kingdom of Dorwinion. So let's click yes to resume the campaign. So I mentioned in the intro here that North Rune was characterized, in my view, by some simplicity. And what I mean by that can be explained if we look at their recruitment options. So we can go to the project browser here and see that they only have 3 levels of military development building. So this is essentially your barracks. This is where all of our troop recruitment is going to come out of. There's only 3 buildings. So some may look at that and see, wow, what a stripped down unit roster, especially when we see that we've got something like 5 or 6 units. It's not a ton. But really, this is a hidden advantage because it means that you only need to develop your province up to the 3rd tier or urban province, and then you can train everything you can train. So you don't need to get to this major province for military purposes. So what are those units that we get? Well, the first tier is going to bring us our Mountain Warband, which is a basic spear unit. These guys at least have 100 men in the unit, but otherwise they are extremely just basic, bread and butter. We also have the very handy Easterling skirmishers, and I have grown to appreciate infantry javelin units a lot in this mod, so we are going to be making some use of them. They're going to be very helpful, in fact, against some of our more heavily armored enemies. In Tier 2, we get a really standard and rock-solid unit, the Axemen of Rune. The only problem with these units in general, your infantry, can be very effective, but they will take a lot of losses. And as they take losses, they decrease in effectiveness in, I guess, more rapidity than similar losses would cause to a cavalry. What I mean by that is you can do a lot with cavalry, even if the unit has been chewed up and has lost a lot of men. But if you lose like half of your unit of infantry, that's a bit harder to to throw into the fray. So I feel like I have a harder time using the infantry to best effect, but that is one of the challenges of playing North Rune. At Tier 2, we do get some longer range units, and these are slingers. So Eastland Slingers is a native unit we can train. You will also find mercenary variants of this unit all over the map, so we will be having plenty of slingers, and we're going to need to use them because we don't have any archers. So we will have to use the relatively flat trajectory slingers pretty much throughout the game. until we can find some maybe mercenaries or other units that can fill the ranged role. This is going to be important, even though I find slingers a bit annoying because they have to fall back behind the front line, and then it's harder for them to take effective shots. But we will be using them to at least sort of screen for our infantry as we get those infantry into position to swarm and overwhelm our opponents. We also, at Tier 2, get Mountain Raiders. This is our one and only cavalry unit that's not a bodyguard. So this is going to be extremely valuable to us. 52 men, that's quite good. Their defense is okay. They have a bonus fighting riders. They get a nice little bonus because they have a spear rather than a sword or an axe or something. So that charge is very helpful to them. But really, we just need to have some mobility, someone that can deal a killing blow and also make those victories decisive on the campaign map in the form of chasing down any routers who would otherwise get away and regroup for later. At Tier 3, the highest tier of military development, we get some very important units for us. Spearmen of Rune are going to be extremely important for stiffening our infantry lines. As you can see, all we've got for other spears are the warband, and they're not great at holding a position. They're good at overwhelming, flanking, chasing down very light troops, I guess, and maybe holding a little bit against light cav, but they're not going to form a solid front line. And similarly, the Axemen of Rune, they got a bit smaller numbers, and they're more offensively oriented. Once the war cry effect wears off, they're also not going to be doing as much damage. So it is this is not something that we're going to necessarily rely on in the front line all the time. But Spearmen of Rune will give us a very solid sort of bastion unit. So I love these guys for this faction. And more aggressively, the Great Axes of Rune. We'll want to protect them because their armor is quite good, actually. I guess armor of 14, total defense of 21. It's a bit lower than the Spearmen of Rune, and they don't have a shield. But they do have the war cry ability, which makes that attack go even higher, and then they are effective against armor. So that is fantastic. We're going to want to keep them back from the front line and send them around to the flanks and go for those high-value armored targets. And then our bodyguard unit we're going to see is a Chieftain's Guard. So this is a great little unit. It is a bit tricky to use because they don't have spears, so they're not great as charging home. They've got swords, they got shields, they got good armor. Importantly, the thing that sets them apart is javelins. So they do have a ranged attack, but there's not going to be that many men in the unit outside of your High Chieftain and his heir. So that's really it for the training. And in terms of what we start off with initially, we've got some good forces here in our capital of Fornhud, one of 3 settlements to our name, and we've got the ability to train up to level 2 units. So we've got the cavalry, we've got the axes, we've got the slingers, so we can train a lot of the stuff that we need. This is a pretty good starting lineup in that we get a couple of units that we can't currently train, so a very nice beginning. And we have 2 other settlements as well. Gaurgal in the west is our frontier with Dale. The Kingdom of Dale has all of this nice territory between the River Running and the River Carnan, or the Redwater. And so they're going to be coming across this ford here pretty soon, and Gaurgal is going to be under attack. It starts off with about a quarter stack of relatively low-tier stuff. You've got some axemen, you've got slingers, you get a unit of cav. Otherwise, we get a family member, but not much else. Garth is similarly on the frontier, this time with Dorwinion. Again, we've got a crossing here where Dorwinion can go up and trouble us in Garth, although it is more likely that they'll wait a little while, so we could go down if we wanted to and take them out quickly. There's also one other crossing here which goes also into Dorwinion's territory, into a settlement called Rathwin, which is located right about here if I remember, and that's another way they can access us. So we've got 3 river crossings to defend or attack across. And then to our south and east, we've got really a lot of open territory. And this is where the problem comes in, because we've got the Chiefdom of Rune starting off down here, and there's a couple of rebel settlements to the north of them, to our east. But once these rebel settlements are conquered, either by us or other factions, Rune is going to come calling. I have no illusions that they will not become charging into our eastern flank just as soon as we're taking the war to Dale in earnest. And that's the problem when you're playing as North Rune, because you can't really fully commit to one front without opening yourself up to the other. You just don't have the economy to support it. Now, it is possible to do a little bit of a dance where you go for one flank, do some damage, maybe burn a city or two, go back to the other flank, do the same, grab Belligant early on, get some good economy out of this, and just sort of build and try to manage the fires that crop up on either front until you can start to make some headway. It's possible to win that way as North Rune. I think it's much more challenging. And so that's why we're going to try another option, which is one of the things I love about playing this faction. So if we open up any of our settlements here, you can see that we have the horde option, or we have the option to abandon our settlements. And this is a feature that we don't often think of as an advantage. At least in my view, it's very rare that I want to willingly give up a settlement, let alone my final settlement. But I think the faction of North Rune is probably the most suited to benefiting from using the horde mechanic in this game, in 4th Age specifically. There are 3 factions on the map that can actually horde. North Rune is one, the Chiefdom of Rune is the other, and the Chiefdom of Khand, far down to the south, is the third. For both of those other factions, I think they start off with a decent enough position, strategically, economically, that it probably doesn't make sense for them to horde right off. But North Rune has a few reasons why that is a great idea and why that's what we're going to do in this playthrough. So first of all, as you can see, our current units are pretty weak. We don't have a lot of them. We've got, I guess, about 2 stacks all told, or maybe a single stack if we combine everything and a little more. That's simply not enough, whereas if we horde, we're going to get a bunch of free upkeep units without having to pay anything for them, and we can send them wherever we want. The second point is that we are relatively close to a few important dwarven settlements, and we're going to be at war with the dwarves here quite soon. We are currently at war with the Kingdom of Dale. Dale is in a special alliance with the Dwarven Kingdom, which means they follow each other into wars typically. And so we're going to be at war with them. Not only do we have the Iron Hills as a dwarven settlement, and we have this settlement down here of Nereg Zagil, but we also have the crucial dwarven settlement of Erebor at the Lonely Mountain, right next to Dale's capital of Dale, and the settlement just off of the Long Lake, Esgaroth. And so there's 3 settlements here, which altogether represent the core of our 2 most dangerous enemies in the early game. And this is a very fruitful place to settle, meaning that we can get over here and get access to some very strong economic territory. But it's not only the economy that is going to be benefiting from our horde journey if we go through these places and settle them. What's also going to be benefiting is our recruitment options. So North Rune is one of a few factions that can train units in dwarven lands. So dwarven territory is, of course, home to dwarves, not men. The recruiting options for such places for men are, as you would imagine, very limited. But as North Rune, we get some interesting options. Some axe-wielding infantrymen, some axe-throwing infantrymen, and some very solid, well-armed units that is sort of representing our Easterlings, I guess taking up some of the leftover dwarven armor if we manage to capture such a place and turning it to our own benefit. So what we're going to want to do is get a horde going, send it against the dwarves, and quickly start to build up those territories and then spread out from there, really destroying Dale's heartlands, taking over some of the dwarven realms for our own, and then we can expand back. Because it's not that we want to remain here. In terms of victory, we ultimately need to get 30 provinces, we need to get Dale, and then we need to get Belligant as well. Otherwise, it's fairly open, but we will need to reconquer our own territory. I think we'll be in a really strong position to do that once we get some of this better economic ground to our north and west. And we do want to head south as well, because in addition to the special units we can train at dwarven settlements, we can also train some special units by going south. If we take over territory that initially belongs to the Chiefdom of Rune, we can train our own war wains. So we will have, near the mid-game, if we play our cards right, a very interesting, very versatile unit roster that combines some of our interesting, solid horde-like infantry with some very strong infantry from Dwarven territory, and the mobility and just chaotic fun of hordes built in the Chiefdom of Rune's territory. Another factor that North Rune has that I want to mention quickly here is all of our native units get a combat bonus in the snow. And that means we're going to want to establish something of a winter empire here along the northern parts of Middle-earth. Every place that has snowfall in it, we're going to be watching very carefully to see what settlements are actually in the grip of winter, because those are going to be the best places for us to take so that we can ensure that we fight during winter when possible and get that extra attack bonus. So without further ado, let's empty our cities and get the horde ready. Now we're going to want to start off by just eliminating our settlement buildings that we don't need, the homeland dominion, the control posts. And then we're going to end the year. And we should be visited by a representative from Dorwinion. Yes, here he comes. So the wine folk from down south, the Northmen from our south, are looking for trade rights. I'm going to actually swap this up, and I'm going to give you a couple of provinces. How about that? You take Garth, you take Gargal, and how about you just take them as a gift? Fantastic. We've gotten rid of those two settlements, and now Dorwinion owns them. Now, why would that be a good thing to do? Well, we could have simply let these places rebel and let other factions fight over them, but those other factions that would win would probably be Dale and maybe Rune. And this way, we're strengthening Dorwinion, which is initially the faction with the fewest settlements on the map. It only starts with Belagant and Rathwin up here. And so by doing this, we've doubled their province count, and we've given ourselves sort of a head start. Now we don't have to wait for rebellions to kick in, and we can just get our horde going immediately, pretty much. We can go here. We can click the Abandoned Settlement button, and we're going to get some free armies. Look at them all piling out of there. Fantastic. Now, we don't have a lot of money. We've got 15,000 in the bank, and that does sound like a lot, but in this mod, you can go through that very quickly. Fortunately, though, we're not losing anything. So we're not making any money, we're not losing anything. In other words, these units that we already started with are also not going to cost us any upkeep. So that's just for the purposes of while we are hoarding. And these are going to go into the population, or these are the units that are going to remain, rather, once we actually settle. All these other horde units are going to disband once we settle. And it'll take a few seasons or a few settlement actions before that actually occurs. Now we start with one spy, and he's down here by Dorwinion initially. So let's send him over to the northwest. We want to send him over through Dale just to see what's going on there. And we've got an emissary that I did train up, and we're going to send him up to the north through the waste, essentially. Like I said, there's a couple of rebel provinces to our east, but we're concerned primarily with getting this settlement, Barez Doom, which is a Dwarven Iron Hill settlement, and of course coming over here. Now I think we'll be able to do that pretty easily if we move around to the west. So this is going to take a few years of journeying, but honestly time is kind of on our side here because we don't have to worry about upkeep. We can just keep these units moving, and all of that's going to work out just fine. Wow, already we're just a couple of turns into the game and we're getting the Dominion of Men message. Now what this means is that some factions are going to war with each other that would not normally go to war with each other. And that, I'm going to say, geez, okay, who is it? Is it the Dwarves and Dale? That's what I would normally expect. We've got Dorwinion and Rovanion at war, which is interesting. And we've got Harondor and Adunabar also at war. Let's take a closer look at that diplomacy button. Because yes, it is the Dwarves and Dale. Very interesting stuff. So they go to war very early in this universe, and I'm not sure what the reason is, but we can see Dale has besieged Erebor. So well, we're gonna come over. And, I'm not sure who's gonna win that. Probably the Dwarves. They tend to hold on to it pretty well. But if Dale takes it, that's actually kind of good. They're probably gonna grow it a little better than the Dwarves would. Now you might be wondering why we're going this kind of long route up and around the Iron Hills. I don't know, it seems a bit better. What I'm doing is I'm allowing the AI factions to do stuff right now. I'm letting them go ahead and make their moves. and move their armies around to disperse a little bit, to get their strength spread to other settlements and other regions. So when I come down, it'll be like a big surprise. If I just go straight through, over the Karnin or down through Dorwinion, I mean, that could be a lot of fun, right? We could sack a lot of territory on the way, but I want to keep my armies as intact as possible before we get here. And hopefully by the time we get here, Dale's big scary armies will be far away, and we can move in and swoop in on our heartland unexpected, leaving everything open for us. So I think I've got my fighting stack here. We've got 4 units of Horde Great Axes of Rune. We've got 4 cavalry units. We've got a couple skirmishers. We've got some slingers and axes and a few spears just to fill out. Behind them, we're going to bring Borlas of the Tribe of the Dark Forest. He's got mostly just like population feeders, basically. A lot of these large size units of Easterling Horde Warband, just so that when we disband, we'll have lots of men settling here. And everything else, I think, will be good to go. I want to settle this place last, I think. But otherwise, we're going to kind of keep things going. So due to the difference in speed of our units and the different traits that our different generals have, we are seeing some splitting up in terms of distance, which means we're no longer a concentrated horde. We're now splitting up into really 3 different sectors. We've got one headed for Berez Doom, and then a couple of others heading into the west for Erebor, Dale, and Esgaroth. The thing we'll have to watch out for, of course, is a big dwarven army coming out of the north. They've got 1 or 2 settlements up here that they may be able to make some use of, and I'm not sure if they have another large army around Erebor, but they are training stuff, as you can see. The dwarven axe throwers, I think, were not here before. Maybe a general came of age as well, so that's all stuff that we need to watch out for. I'm not going to risk my spy sending him into settlements, but I will send him out to march around. Yes, there's another dwarven settlement here, Gundu Thorin. Not too much in it, it looks like. So far, things look fairly clear for us, and we'll see how that changes. I am curious how things are going in our old homelands. It looks like Dorwinion has had a hard time holding on to Gargal, the settlement we gifted them. They've kept this one, Garth, which is, I guess that makes sense. It's closer to their capital. And someone is besieging Fornhud. It's probably them, if I had to guess. I think Rune is probably expanding in the south, maybe against Adunabar, maybe just against rebels. But Dorwinion is probably trying to take over this territory and having a rough time of it. So let's get our men down here. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we'll move these guys first. We want to go... I think Hjorth is not too big of a deal. What does it have? Muster fields. Okay, so here they can train some longbowmen, which is a bit of an issue. And then Dale Mounted Watch, a cavalry unit. So, do we want to bother sacking this place? We could get it, potentially, if we move over there, besiege it. We could use this army, right? That's not going to feed the population. Let's move into the territory at least. We'll get across the border into the North Eaves. And I think I will put you right there. We'll put Hjorth under siege. And we will storm it and attack it. It looks like there's so few men here that even though these are horde units that are going to go into population, I think we'll be okay. Let's get our men down another tile, maybe to block any reinforcements. And meanwhile, we'll send you guys right over to Dale. Okay, I guess we'll have to chase away some of you. Oh, how frustrating. We can't quite reach the city yet. Well, it might be worth it to attack these little armies and just get rid of them. So maybe this will be our first battle of the episode here. We don't have our faction leader over on this side of things. This is the High Chieftain up there. Or the heir. This is just a couple of our generals. So who would be best to do it? Well, actually, let's see. I wonder if you'll even join in if we attack, or if you'll retreat. I think we want them to join in, though, so let's hit them with this army. It's got a unit of cav. I think it should be fine. They'll be more likely to fight. Yeah, lots of longbows. Let's retreat for now, because I think I may instead want to attack with this army, with all of the cavalry. So let's just hit the longbow army there, and they're going to withdraw. Okay, fair enough. So that means we can hit you. And, you know, honestly, this is such a tiny army. Let's auto-calc it. And we only lost a handful of men. Very good. So they're going to withdraw, and that should open us up to maybe just barely be able to put this under siege. Let's see. Go right there. And yes, we can do it. All right. And we're attacking with, again, a horde army. We've got another horde army as backup. Inside the city of Dale, this is going to be the biggest challenge. They're going to have, you know, longbows, strong units. This is actually a unique unit, Company of the Black Arrow. Only one of those is in existence, and so they're very tough. We're going to have some fights ahead of us for sure. Well, we've arrived at the gates of Dale. We're putting them under siege. I think I'll just move this army a little bit closer, and then maybe we'll just wait. Honestly, I think that if we hold out, we're going to be weakening them over time. If they sally, we'll have a massive advantage. We'll be fighting on a bridge or a crossing anyway. And since they have attacked the dwarves, I don't think the dwarves are going to be coming down to help them out at all. So we'll just leave that the way it is. Over here, same thing in Barrow's Doom. We've got 8 seasons there. And actually, the timing here would be perfect if we can get both of these at the same time. Let's go ahead, though, and attack Hjorth. There's a nobleman here, Bane of the North Eves. He's got a unit of Dale's bodyguard dragon slayers. We can do a quick assault here and take Hjorth and sack it for a bit of extra cash. I think the strategy here when you're dealing with a horde faction is you want to lead with your toughest units so you can retain that settlement population for later. So we're going to be fighting with our horde spearmen of Rune for the most part. We'll bring some axemen down too, and then of course we'll have the general do some work. There's really not a whole lot here that we have to worry about, I think. Certainly the general could come down and cause some trouble for us. Now that we're inside, very good. So we'll just set this up like so. We can move right through the gate here, get our spearmen over on that end. And let's get a war cry and crash in on the flanks. We'll bring all these units over. And I think, yes, we'll bring over the spearmen to stand aggressively against the general here. They're going to be routing pretty quickly here. Yes, overwhelmed. And we've lost maybe 6 men in the spear unit. So very, very nice. Now, they do have some longbowmen here, which are going to cause a bit of trouble. And, of course, they're holding back their general so he can quickly go to the square if he gets in trouble. So we'll have to bring up our infantry and be a little careful about this. But I'd love to catch him out in melee. A very strong unit, but if we can catch him, you know, in the city streets where his charge is going to be nullified, even if we catch him with, like, our lighter cav, that'll give us time to bring our other infantry up and take him out. Alright, so I guess then, let's see, our infantry is marching up a bit slowly, but we don't want to tire them out too fast. And their longbowmen are kind of waiting. I guess we can war cry our axes and then throw them in. We're close enough actually to get some javelin hits on their longbows. And they're not aiming at the general, it looks like. They're hitting back at our spearmen, which is kind of a good target for them to hit. As you can see, though, queuing up attacks in a city is usually not good for units that depend on speed and the charge. They're just going to be kind of slow walking into battle here, which is not ideal. We've at least caught the enemy general, though. Or he's caught us, I guess you could say. But we are doing some damage to them too, you know. Despite the fact that this is a very low-tier unit, it does get that bonus against cavalry, so their spears are doing a bit of damage. I I think I'll bring the bodyguard down through. He's kind of a throwaway general, honestly. And I know the pathfinding is going to be kind of a nightmare here, but I think we can carry him through and maybe behind to do some more damage to these units. All right, pull through. Pull through. There we go. Not too bad. We are losing some of those light cav. But now we've got them pinned, and we should have them routing. And there we go. We'll end that battle. And we get Hjorth. Okay, and Hjorth looks very happy, but of course you've got to remember we've got no settlements, so this is effectively our capital. Now, we're not going to occupy here. This is just not worth it. The investment, the population level, the settlement development level is too low, so we'll just sack. We're not going to get that much in loot, honestly, but we will get 847, and this is going to, more importantly, set a bunch of rebels here. And that means that the people of Dale will have to conquer this properly themselves if they want to get it back. So this is really effective at weakening the AI factions. Let's just move you back and smack this unit away. And what do we want to do with you? I guess we want to hit Esgaroth. Can't quite get there in time, so I think it makes more sense to hit you there. We'll do an auto-resolve. Again, we lost very few men. These are just tiny little armies. It doesn't seem worth fighting. And you're probably more of the same, so let's swat you away too. And I think we can at least put Dale under siege here. You can see the wooden walls here are of a slightly higher quality than what we just faced in Hjorth. They can actually put archers up on top of them. But this is going to be really important to take because I think initially it only has up to tier 2 military development in place, but that gets them some nice units. It gets them some longbows with some armor. It gets them some infantry units and some cavalry. And they can, more importantly, just keep cranking them out. So we've damaged them a little bit in Hjorth, but sacking Esgaroth is really going to be helpful overall. Now Erebor continues to train units, which is very upsetting. So I don't want that to allow. I don't want to allow that to continue for too much longer. But as long as Dale is here, we do have a bit of an issue with that. In other words, it's hard to move our guys through, right? What we could do is I guess we could move a unit up here and then next turn get him a tile closer to Erebor and put it under siege. That might be okay. Let's do that. That's going to change the timing slightly. We're going to remove them from siege. That's okay. We'll put them right under siege again. We'll move you a step closer. And what should we do with you? I guess we could also move you over towards Erebor. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, and then in Barra's Doom, the siege is proceeding according to plan. 7 seasons left for that, so we want to have this wrapped up before 7 seasons go by. We've got the Rams here, though, so I guess it's time for us to assault Esgaroth. Let's see what that looks like. Still, we can't tell much beyond the fact that it's Dale Watch and some longbows. So let's queue up the attack and see what we're in for. If we actually go through with the assault, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Galen of Esgaroth is just some noble, again leading a unit of Dragon Slayers. But he's got some Dale-mounted watch, some militia, some swordsmen, just 1 unit of longbows, and 1 unit of woodman spears. Okay, I think we can handle this. Alright, they're getting a little wise to us, sending over some woodman spears. The general also, he may want to get involved with my spearmen. He's charging right in. We're going to countercharge. I don't know if this is better or if we should have just sat tight. Yeah, probably that charge did a lot of damage. Okay, so we'll move the Axemen up to support. Let's get the general up there too. Take him off skirmish. And what do we have here? Yeah, we've got lots of low-tier stuff over on this side of the city. Woodman spears, not too big of a deal. But as you can see, these Dragon Slayers, I mean, they're going right into a tier 3 spear unit. Granted, we weren't formed up, but they're winning easily, and they're not taking too many losses. We can get behind them with our axes, though. Get a bit of a war cry, and this is our faction leader. So I think he can get involved here. This would be rather fun. Alright, you can attack. Alright, Dale Watch is coming in. Let's get some likely axemen from nearby. Let's see. Horde Spearmen. There we go. Warcry and charge in. Alright, we're going to give the help of our faction leader. Now, Ulwarth of the Northern Highlands, he's getting old anyway, so if he dies, if this is his last battle, first and last battle, you know, that's kind of okay. But I think he's got enough men with him that we definitely want to use them anyway. Alright, Dale Watch are wavering. They're sending over Barding Militia and Longwomen in the distance. There they go. They're routing. Let's bring our axes up to the plaza. There he goes. Beautiful. And that's actually all of them, so we can bring these units right to the plaza also. Slowly get my faction leader up there. This Barding Militia is just going to get cut down by our axes. And I think we can send our cavalry after these Barding Longbowmen. We don't want to stand around and get caught by them. You can see archers in this mod are really not that much of a pushover as you might expect. These Dale Longbowmen in particular, even the lower tier ones, are pretty decent. So they're doing some damage to me even as we're attacking them with our cavalry. But remember, this is a very weak, light cavalry unit. Alright, let's war cry, and we're going to get into horse hacking mode with our Horde Great Axes of Rune. And we'll just throw them all right in. Looks like the longbow fight has been wrapped up. And so this is going to be the last engagement for the city of Esgaroth. They go down pretty quick, don't they, with the great axes. We have not taken too many losses here. So one more man. And yes. The Horde takes Esgaroth. So. And the dwarves are training yet more units at Erebor. So we want to get our dwarf army up right immediately. We'll move them there. We will turn and put Erebor under siege. And I'm just not sure if they're going to actually allow us to wait, because they may have just enough dwarves that they feel like they can burst out of there and take us. And they may be right to think that. So let's move our other men up here, where they'll be in a position maybe to reinforce, although maybe not. But at any rate, we can put Dale, let's see, we'll put Dale under siege. This does have some pretty substantial walls too, so we'll have to be careful about that. And let's see if we can do anything with this unit. So we'll smack him. Oh, and he's actually going to stand and fight. Okay, never mind then. I don't want to bother, quite frankly. I thought if we could get him to retreat, maybe up next to the city of Dale, then we could lift the siege, attack him. The army comes out as a reinforcement. Then that could all work out, but I guess not. So another consideration here is if we take Erebor, we're going to want some other units, horde units, to go into the population. Because currently this army has, one stack, but if it's just them, that's not that many men. So what we can do is we can bring this other horde army into the lands of Erebor. So they're in the same province. So if we take it, it should be drawing population from both of these armies, and that should be the way we like it. Okay, this is what I was looking for. I think we can do some cheekiness here. So what we can do is let's withdraw. We'll lift the siege. We'll just lift it completely. Okay? We will now hit this army with this army. And then this garrison of the city of Dale should show up as reinforcements. Now, I am concerned about that because this army is not the best one. I'm a little worried, though, that if I attack with like tons of forces, that they'll just withdraw. Which isn't the end of the world, but I'd rather get the city in this way. So, should I attack with this army instead? This might be good, but they'll show up as reinforcements. So let's just do that. Okay. Oh, we are getting reinforcements. Well, okay. What we'll do is we'll take them off independent command. That way they won't arrive until we start losing men. I think that's how that works. And inside the city, we can finally see what they have. They've got a nobleman. They've got that Company of the Black Arrow. They've got a few units of these black spears, which are very dangerous spear units, of course. And then they've got one longbowman of Dale, so really not too much in terms of range, and some fairly basic units apart from those spears. All right, because the UI is a little weird and doesn't always display the right thing, you want to click this a bunch of times on and off and on and off to get it to really register that that's what you want. That's my experience anyway. So we are not having this commanded by the AI. Let's jump into the battle.
Fresh warriors have arrived.
This is a very wooded, very foresty battle, unfortunately. But we'll have to make do. We can turn around because this is where the big army's going to come from. And we can actually be fighting on a fairly open terrain here. And we can send our cavalry through the woods to go after this unit, which I know, yes, it's woodman spears, and we shouldn't technically be using cavalry for this purpose. But I think we can surround them, get them to rout, deal with them quickly, and defeat this force by sort of waiting. We'll wait for them to come on. They're going to be approaching pretty soon. They're piling up as reinforcements here. And then we'll get the battle underway. Now, our own reinforcements, it looks like they are gathering behind us, sadly, which means that we'll have some performance issues on this battle, as my rig sometimes struggles to render all these units in very wooded terrain. But we'll do what we can. Yes, here they come. And the trick is we want to destroy both of these armies without letting the family member or the general or anyone get back. And did I just send you? Oh my gosh. Okay, so they took the initiative. Well, good for them. They took the initiative right on me. So they move right through to my my cav. So we'll have to hit them from the back, do a bit of repeated charges if we're to try to win this. All right, pull you back. Try again. Where are you? Okay, get you out. Want to get them from both sides. Certainly not what I was expecting. I was thinking that they were going to just stand there while we moved around them. But no, they took the initiative, which is uncharacteristic. Okay, we've got some lighter cav that should be hitting them fairly soon. So we're going to have to play keep away through the trees. So they're doing some good stuff, actually. There we go. There's our Eastland Horde Raiders. They should turn around soon to engage them, and we should be able to hit them from both sides there. And all of our guys are shooting now, which is actually great. And here comes the Dragon Slayers. Okay, let's throw in the Horde Spearmen of Rune. And how are we doing here? Evenly matched. I mean, this could be going better. All right, let's pull out again. And they're not going to let us catch their general, but we are going to get involved with some of their infantry. Unfortunately, it's not too good. Their quality of their infantry is rather light. Guarding militia losing heavily, as you can see. We're charging into some Dale Watch there. We've got Woodman Spears. All of our guys have War Cried, so we can now throw them in. What's this? 20 Dragon Slayers. Geez, I don't know. We're probably going to want the extra help, so let's bring our guys around. What do we have here? All right, where's the blue guys? Where's the blue guys? 21 men. Okay, so they're winning easily. Let's pull back. I think that we can get them. All right, so our general is back there, and here we zoom in a little bit to see these company of the Black Arrow unit. Very stylish, very heavily armored. They've got axes for melee work, and looks like they're going to be getting involved in melee. But we're starting to get some routing in the center of their line. Our skirmishers are throwing in. Let's see if a rear charge into the general is going to have any impact. All right, they're winning slightly. I'm not going to want to do this for too much longer. Let's get the horde spearmen around. And here, okay, here comes that general unit. Let's bring him over towards the spears that we're fighting in the trees here. I've got to devote some attention to this fight too, I suppose. They're utterly tired, so if we can kind of pull them out along with us into the trees. Oh no, oh no. That happened extremely fast. Wow, okay. Lost our general super quickly there. Super quickly. And now, I mean, we're doing all right in some ways. I mean, I guess it's good we have reinforcements. All right, what are you doing? Down to just 4 Dragon Slayers. You know, honestly, this is so close. We could have had this. And we may not have it. Let's see. They're just staying there. I don't dare throw in just yet, but we'll wait for the reinforcements to arrive. Wow. The general died so fast. I didn't think he was going to lose that many men that quickly. All right, so disaster on this, what was intended to be a sneaky attack on Dale so that we would be fighting, you know, more favorably, because assaults tend to go poorly, right? Okay. So some of these guys are going to come back, and we've got a whole stack of men just waiting to be summoned here. What are you? Great Axes of Rune. Let's War Cry. And let's throw you into the general here. We've got to kill him for sure. But we're getting hit by fire arrows from those black arrows. Okay, the skirmishers are idle. Let's do everybody right there. Okay, what are you? The Chieftain's Guard. All right, we'll bring you back around. I want to get rid of these woodman spears and then focus everything else back over here. Okay, it looks like the horde axemen of Rune got routed by the fire arrows. All right, what is this? Skirmishers, black spears, and some black spears. So they've got some good units left still. Alright, now there's 14 men. Okay, we've got to pay attention to this fight. Ran out of javelins here. These horde generals are not so great in terms of their stats. There he goes. Good. Alright. They start off with relatively poor experience, as you can see. And so that was the thing that I had not considered. Okay. Maybe you should slow down, be a little patient. And where's the enemy general? Okay, he's right here. They're moving up towards me with their black spears. Let's see, there's only 12 of them, and there's only a few of these units. So what are we hitting? Okay, not much actually. We're all out of arrows, but the skirmishers can march forward and just choose their targets. So we're splitting them up is what we're doing. Looks like some axemen actually have recovered. They're winded, but we'll get the javelins thrown in, and we'll get the axemen to sort of flank, and maybe we can take out those black spears. Let's run these guys over here, because they're just only useful now as a distraction. Okay, I think I want the cav down here quickly. Alright, let's throw my spears against theirs. And let's throw my skirmishers against theirs too. Feel like I should be getting a few more units as reinforcements by now. Alright, that's just Barding Militia. We should be able to get you. So, let's see. You're routing. Great. Let's go down and hit the Company of the Black Arrow. And we'll go right after the Dragon Slayers. Right after them. Yes, you need to go after Black Spears. Okay, they're routing. Great. Oh, good, good, good. Company of the Black Arrow's routing. If we catch him, I think we can get him. We've still got a strong spear contingent over on the right there, the Black Spears. We're down to 3 men, but they're doing good. All right, Spearman of Rune, go in. He's routing. We gotta kill him. Gotta kill him. All right. Very nice. Go after that useless Barding Militia. Go after the Black Spears, actually. Everyone hit the Black Spears. And with that, I think we've got it wrapped up, as long as we can rout that unit. And that's, you know, that's not a foregone conclusion. Let's see how the charge goes. Bring some skirmishers out. Yes, indeed. All right. Very tough fight there. I was entirely too aggressive with my general. Should not have had him in that melee. But I think now we've got our clear victory, and that means we should get the settlement, because we've defeated the general of the tiny army, the captain there, and we've defeated the bodyguard, the family member who came out of the city. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So, City of Dale. Now, we're going to be populating it with all of these units. So, let's do it. Let's jump right in and occupy. Now, we'll watch what we have. We've got like a full stack here. That should remain, as well as the stacks over here. So let's make this our first occupation. We're going to get 406. And now Dale is our capital. And yes, all of these units have gone into the population, which is 5,000 men. So actually, we probably shouldn't have given, you know, too many units here. But we can put our whole stack inside. So that's going to be great. The downside is now we're paying upkeep. 3,000 a turn. And what that means is we now need to begin bringing the economy up. So Dale is a good first place to conquer for that, though. It starts off with some nice buildings we can destroy. A Lord's Barracks is maybe the highest building they can train for military stuff. So let's get 5,000 out of that right away. King's Feasts are doing us no good at all. We're going to get 4,500 from that. The Dwarven Crafted Walls are just a sort of a native feature of the city, which we can't destroy. And otherwise, we've just got the tooltip here, the information, sort of the strategy guide for the Chieftain of North Rune. Probably a basic overview that you should read initially in the campaign, but I don't think we need to look at it here. So let's keep the Herbalist. That actually is increasing the public health for us, which is nice. We'll keep the Open Policy. That's also useful. And we'll keep the Merchant Square so we can train a Scout, actually, and we'll do that right now. But let's destroy the Homeland Dominion and get going on our own. Provincial Pacification. Now, we could repeat this process again. We could hoard again from Dale. I'm not going to do that. We're going to try to hold this. But I think this makes a good point for the end of our first episode. So we have successfully taken Dale. We've destroyed, sacked Hjorth, sacked Esgaroth. That leaves Dale basically split into 2 halves. They've got the settlements here of Yodor and Bern. They've got a fort here that's not going to be good for too much. And they've also got Framsburg off in the west. But that should be it. So they are severely weakened at this point. They may have some large armies roaming around. I can see there's a bunch of guys at Yodor. No idea what they are. So they may come hounding us later on. But if we can get this quickly built up and retain a bunch of these units here as a garrison, we should be in a good position to hold Dale, and pretty soon, in the next episode, take Erebor as well as Barez-Dûm and get our dwarf units online. So this is the beginning of our Winter Empire siege, our barbarian horde from the east, the Chiefdom of North Rune. See you in the next one.